love shooting for the moon and the stars, right? Like I am like I'm gutsy. I'm like, let's go for it. But I haven't toured this year because I had to make the record. I was doing the voice, all these things. And so not touring for a year and then putting up Madison Square Garden for a record that hasn't come out yet. I I was shaking in my boots.
Hey Kelsey, it's lovely to see you and to talk to you again. How are you?
I am so good. It's good to talk to you too. It's been a minute. I'm home in Nashville. I'm so happy to like just across the pond have a little heart to heart.
A little connection. Well, I'm going to tell you something really quickly here. You were in London about 5 years ago. You were playing London's Hyde Park,
Yes.
and you swung into the studios to have a chat. And we've got to tell you that you were the first guest because we'd recently just launched Smooth Country, and you were our first ever guest. So
Right.
you'll always have a special place in our heart for sure. So it's a pleasure to talk to you again.
I cannot believe that was 5 years ago. That's kind of wild. I remember I was so excited but very nervous to play that show because Hyde Park is obviously it's Hyde Park. It's
Yeah.
legendary. I remember as soon as we were done, my band and I just went directly to a pub and got fish and chips and a big pint, and it was amazing. That was our celebration.
Wow, those were the days, eh? But here we go again, and there's been a lot of changes for you, hasn't there, since those days? I want to talk to you about a number of things, but obviously the most exciting thing is the new album, Patterns. We've heard a couple of songs already, so Sorry Mom, and also Cowboys Cry Too with Noah Kahan. I wanted to ask you, first of all, how did it come about with Noah? Why Noah?
I had written Cowboys Cry Too. It was one of the first tracks for Patterns that I had. And we had already cut it just as a solo track. And I loved that song so much. And I loved being able as a woman to kind of tackle the idea of toxic masculinity and really just honor the men in my life that I'm able to cry with or have like really emotional conversations with. And I'm lucky because between like my dad and my partner and my collaborators, I have a lot of those men in my life. But I just thought that the song would be more impactful if we had both perspectives. And I'm such a Noah fan. I think Stick Season, that record, is just songwriting gold. I mean, he is such a storyteller, such a lyricist. And we met at the Grammys, and I mean, I fully fangirled him, like fully. And he was like, "It's so nice to meet you. Hey, how long ago did you write Peter Pan?" And immediately I was like, "Oh my God, he knows my songs, you know?" And so we just connected over songwriting, and I texted it to him a couple weeks later, and I was like, I don't know if this connects with you, but if it does, I would really, really love if you would write your perspective into the second verse. And he did, and he just brought it to a different level, I think.
Are you ever anxious when you pitch a song to somebody or you send a song to somebody and are you thinking, oh my God, I hope they like this? Or are you still nervous like that if you do something along those lines?
I'm not. And here's why. Because I'm very comfortable with the idea that the worst that can happen is they say no. And the truth is, like, I've said no to artists that I love because the timeline doesn't work out or I have another collab that would compromise me being able to show up for that one or whatever. So it's very okay, And I would rather shoot my shot every day of the week because the worst that can happen is it doesn't work out. And that's all right.
Well, there's a little life lesson for all of us, really. And, and it's true, though. You're right, because, so many good things can happen, as you well know, when you just pitch out there and open it all up to everybody. Now, you mentioned something a moment ago about a woman's perspective. Am I right in thinking that you went on a retreat and it's a pretty much all-female collaborative project? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that actually was not my intention originally. I think after rolling up the welcome mat, it took me a minute to figure out what this next record was going to be because that record just it changed my life. But it was so specific. It was just so specific. And I knew that I was so ready to move forward in my narrative as a human. But musically, I wanted to keep that integrity of the songwriting, but I just didn't know where to start. And so I called up four of my girlfriends that are just wildly, like stupidly talented because it felt really safe. And I was like, can we go away for like 3 nights and just have girl time and drink wine and catch up and hopefully right and see if that feels like a good entry point into opening up what this next record could be. And on that first retreat, we wrote Sorry Mom, two things that I just released, and a song called Baggage. And as soon as we wrote those, I was like, all right, I'm gonna lock the door. I'm making this whole record with these women.
That's amazing. There are some artists who, stick to the simple stuff like the top level stuff, and then there are other artists like you who really dig deep and share basically your soul with your
Yeah.
fans. I mean,
Yeah.
I've noticed that you do that on social media. You let everybody know what you're up to, and you're very open. But now you're doing that with the songs too. So, there's a real connection there with the fans. There must be after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had a version of that for the last like 10 years because we've grown up together, you know. I put out my first single when I was 20, 21, and I'm 31 now. So it's been this beautiful journey of growing up together. But I think really in the last 3 years there has been a shift where it's kind of been like it's been more ride or die. And I feel definitely like an obligation to continue that openness and that honesty that I have that I've really always tried to have, but now it's very intentional to keep that open.
Well, it's clearly working, and I can't wait to see how the album's going to go. If the tickets for the Madison Square Gardens gig is anything to go by at all, because again, we follow you and all the other artists quite closely for the shows, and I noticed you put the tickets on sale, but then the tickets sold out like that.
Listen, I love shooting for the moon and the stars, right? Like I am like I'm gutsy. I'm like, let's go for it. But I haven't toured this year because I had to make the record. I was doing the voice, all these things. And so not touring for a year and then putting up Madison Square Garden for a record that hasn't come out yet. I I was shaking in my boots. I mean, I was like, can we pull this off? And just to see that people still care and still want to come see a show, and just trust that the new music is going to be something that they want to invest in. It meant a lot to me. I'm very excited.
I'm assuming there's going to be a tour in the States, but are you planning to come our way again at some point too?
Yes, yes. And I don't know when or how yet. To be really candid with you, we've had two shows on hold in the UK, that just scheduling wise or life wise, we've had to pivot from, which happens and it's unfortunate. But yes, I mean, I will make sure to get my booty over there next year.
We've got that now. We've captured it. We've recorded it. That's it.
Yes, I know, I know. I'm a
And
woman of my word.
oh no, I'm sure you are. And when you're there or here again, perhaps you can come and swing by the studio so we don't have to do it like across the Atlantic on technology. And then we can go and have a pint again and some fish and chips or something.
Oh, it's a date. I can't wait.
Let me just check with you as well. Now, you mentioned The Voice, and have you just been in LA filming that?
Yeah, the last 6 weeks, we got home 2 days ago. So I'm almost pretty much done with my season up until the lives. That they don't happen until next, I think, March, which is crazy. But it's been such a fun experience and definitely out of my comfort zone. You know, I still I call myself like the stage that I'm in my career is like puberty. Like I'm not like a kid anymore, but I'm definitely not like, like a solid artist yet and in my brain. And so I feel like being in that seat as a coach has really challenged me to dig into what I have learned the last 10 years, but then also be like, listen, guys, when I'm fighting against Adam Levine and Michael Bublé and John Legend, it's hard for me because they're out of puberty. They have been for a long time, you know? And so I my pitch is always like, I am closer to what you're going to be going through. I'm 10 years into this. They're 20, 30, you know? And it's been a real sharpening tool for me as an artist and just performer and human.
And do you find it quite gratifying as well, helping people who are clearly trying to break through like you've
Oh
done?
yeah. Yeah, and I'm lucky. My team is, I don't know how much I'm supposed to say, but I don't really care. Like, my team represents who I would go see in a concert. Like, it is like all different kinds of voices, all different kinds of artists and genres represented. And for me, obviously, I'm the country coach on my season, but I would like to think that I'm versatile. I would like to think that I have learned a lot in my experience of crossing over and and writing with people in different genres and all of that. And so I'm really proud that I feel like I get to keep my boots in country, but really be a voice for collaboration and crossing genres and all that stuff. Yes.
I've got to ask you as well. I'm hearing about acting and our program now. I'm not familiar with this, but Dr. Odyssey. What's going on there?
Basically, it's a new Ryan Murphy show. It actually comes out this week. I'm not sure when this is airing, but it starts this week. I'm episode 6, and it's a show that is all about like this medical staff on a luxury cruise and everything that happens within that. And I said no to acting for the longest time, and I wasn't really sure why. And then I realized that it's because I am so scared of failing. Like I'm so scared at sucking and people being like, you suck because I saw that because you did it on a public scale. And I think I've had so much like personal reward the last few years from running towards things that scare me. And so we got the offer to play this part, and I just said yes because I am in the season of saying yes to things that scare me. And it was so much fun and out of my comfort zone again. That's like what the voice out of my comfort zone, this out of my comfort zone, but it was so fun and I can't wait for it to come out.
I can definitely see a theme during our little chat here.
Yeah.
Say yes. Kelsey says
Yeah.
yes. Um, but has it whet your appetite for maybe doing something else, like in the acting world at some point too?
Yep. Definitely yes.
There's another yes. Yeah, that's great. Great.
Definitely yes. I
So
just,
is
the people that I look up to the most, like the heroes in my life, are multifaceted women. And so, you look at Reba. Reba's doing The Voice. Reba's doing a reboot of her sitcom. Reba's putting out records. Reba's touring. She has a clothing line. Same with Shania. It's just Reese Witherspoon is another one for me. And I look at these women and they're the ones that I gravitate towards. And it's because they always ask, what else? What else? And I think for me, I'm finally in a place in my life where I trust myself enough to ask, like, what else?
Yeah, no, well, clearly, again, it works. And there's never been a time for more opportunities as well. So many different branches that you can expand on now as well. And I guess if you build up a relationship with the fans more than just the old days when a singer just sang a song and they bought the record and that was it. Now
Sure.
there's the connection on social media, and then you start doing all these other things. You're almost creating more than a fan. It's almost like a club or a family
Yeah.
type. Would you say?
I've always kind of felt like that over the last 10 years. I mean, I've always been a bit of an open book, and I think there's two kinds of artists, right? There's like the artists that are in a glass box and you like go up to the glass box and you look at them and they're shiny and they're perfect. And I love some of those artists. But then there's also the artists that you look at and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go sit on their couch, kick off my shoes and crack open a bottle of wine with them and get real." And I naturally have always gravitated towards those artists. And so obviously when I had the opportunity to really be one, that's who I've always wanted to be. And I think that that's shown in the connection that I've had with people the last 10 years, really specifically the last 3.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you about dibs because, again, you
Yeah.
were very public about this. And as someone who's got a 14-year-old dog myself who's struggling right
Aw.
now, any animal lover like you is
Yeah.
going to, he's going to feel, how's he doing?
He's home. He's home. We made it home. So he is in chemo. He finishes radiation, and we're just trying to make sure that this last chapter of his life is full of love and as much time together as we can. And he's in good spirits. He's happy and he's not in pain, and that's all I can ask for.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't want to be on a downer. Obviously, it's been a really fun and open, but I felt I just wanted to ask you. So,
No, I appreciate that. I do.
and
Thank
and and that's the best you can hope for, isn't it?
you. It
Really?
is. It is.
Yeah. So the new album, we're so excited for it. How long have you been working on it? And it must be at this stage when you're so close that you just want it out there, the whole lot.
The hardest time I would say for any artist is when the album is turned in, so you can't touch it anymore, but it's not
Mhm.
out yet. So you're
Yeah.
just like oh, like I can't fix anything, I can't add anything, but no one else has heard the whole thing yet. It's like this weird in between period. But I really feel like I I really feel like I did welcome Matt justice in the sense of being able to keep that level of honesty and detail and intention in the songwriting, but there's bops and then there's like introspective songs about growing up and assessing the patterns that I've brought into my life and there's a little bit of everything and it's really honest and it's I think people expected me to make a very poppy, lovey album and it's it's really not that at all.
We're really desperate to hear it all in its entirety as well. So I want to wish you the very best of luck with it all. I'm sure you don't need the look, but you know what I mean.
I will
And
take the luck. Please give me the luck.
and continued success with everything and all these saying yeses to everything too. And we'll
Yeah.
see you next time you're here.
Thank you. I'll see you soon, my friend.